have probably 90% more incomplete pieces of art that I have not finished compared to the pieces of art that I consider finished. All the completed pieces, probably a little bit more than that, are basically what you see on Instagram, and it's not a lot. And this year I felt, probably even more than last year, how hard it is to progress. I've heard from other professionals, art professionals, I believe, you gotta expect your pieces to fail or not turn out the way you want it to. Last year I also felt that, but this year I still continue to feel that, and there comes to a point where you fail more pieces than you succeed. It can be depressing if I kind of set my mind to it and just think of all the pieces I have not finished, because either maybe the fundamentals, I did not apply them as much as I wanted to, or there's like a fundamental error to a piece wherein I have to work from the bottom up to continue on that piece. And anyway, that's basically what I'm going to talk about today, my failed pieces. And the reason why I'm going to talk about them is, well, for one, it's because I don't have a lot of successful pieces to show you guys, and I thought it would be a good topic to share, especially because I already said this, I think, a lot of times in my previous video or videos. I don't think we see enough of the failures of these professional artists that we might admire. We don't see as much of their journey of how they got there and how many pieces they have to fail at to get to their desired level of expertise in art. So not only is it's also for me to have at least some video to put out, but to also just provide another channel where you can see me fail, but not only see me fail, but continue to be trying. And I believe it's because art has become an important place of solace. But anyways, just to also make use of all this recorded content that I've recorded but not used, let me just talk about my failed projects, my failed pieces, or in other words, incomplete pieces or projects. When the piece started becoming bad, what part of the piece was bad, what I need to work on now, and what I'm doing now to get better and try not to make those failures again. On screen, you can probably see like a very sped up recording of my Webtoon project that I was working on earlier this year. And basically, with all the recordings I put in the video, I sped all of them up 50 times. So honestly, the process was very tedious, and albeit still very kind of like soothing fun for me, but the drawings took a long time, especially. So for my Webtoon, I was basically announcing it on this channel, like, oh, I'm doing this Webtoon. And one reason why I didn't really put out another video is I didn't know how to say it to my viewers who were looking forward to it, and I kind of want to give like an apology for that, because it didn't really go as planned. I guess I kind of lost interest in it, and I think because throughout this process I was kind of figuring out, I kind of got to understand what I like and what I don't like, how much I can focus on something and how much I can dedicate myself to something. And at this point, I'm gonna just let you know that my personality, the MBTI is ISFP, and definitely people can still act differently from their MBTI, but just as a base, I'm like the kind of person that can spontaneously make myself dive into a project, but I have trouble committing to it for a long time. And I think my personality kind of played a part to it. Maybe I lost interest and just was I made the artwork too detailed for one, I think, for me to really kind of enjoy the process to the point that I can continue and make a lot of progress. So basically my Webtoon project started to become bad when I was putting too much detail into it, and I was overwhelmed by the elements I wanted to incorporate into the story, such as the original plot line of the Webtoon I was cooking up included people drawing different kinds of people, expressions, people of different ages, people with superpowers in a game. I also wanted to draw like these creatures, like monsters in the game world that they are the virtual game VR MMO that they were in. So the problem is I've basically to that point only familiarized myself with anatomy and perspective, a little bit of composition, a little bit of color, but I have not tackled practicing anatomy of animals. So in my mind, I was like I think one part was I was overwhelmed by like this big obstacle of like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to make a really cool monster, like solo level kind of creatures. So basically my visual library wasn't enough. I did not have enough experience for me to be confident in investing into a large project that which I knew would take a couple years to finish, and I didn't want that project to have mediocre drawings and mediocre art. So it started becoming bad because I was overwhelmed, basically, and I didn't know enough for me to be confident enough to continue. So basically, I think you will probably see a pattern for the rest of the year up to the point I published this video. The problem was I kept getting overwhelmed and my foundation wasn't solid. My fundamentals were not solid, or I did not practice these different subjects such as monster or animal anatomy or color or composition enough. And that overall made me just stop every piece that I was working on, almost every one, because I basically knew that they weren't going to turn out very well. Anyway, so about the Webtoon, I still really would love to tell a visual story. It's still like a goal of mine, but I don't think I can announce anything to you guys because there was like this YouTube video that I watched basically about, or I read like a person who took notes about it in the comments because I didn't really want to go through the whole video, I guess. So it was about these elderly people who were near death's door, and someone asked them, what were the biggest things you regretted or something. And one statement that really stuck out to me was, don't talk about what you will do, talk about what you have done. And that like hit me, because man, I kind of made like a fool of myself a little by announcing like this big project, but I never really finished it in the end. So that's a big L for me in that aspect. So I'll just let you guys know that I have all these plans in my mind that I really want to apply. I don't think it's really appropriate for me to announce it yet, but just to let you guys know, I'm still trying what I can and working towards those goals, so I'm not giving up. Still trying, and hopefully in the future I can announce it to you guys with full confidence about my commitment to it. Aside from my webtoon, so after I kind of gave up on the webtoon route a little, not saying I gave up completely now, but I was thinking, okay, so I can't really churn out a lot of panels, a lot of drawings on a single project, so maybe I'm just not cut out for it. So what I did was turn to just working on illustrations, and I dabbled in animation. I thought that aspect, that field of art suited me better because I love working on my details, and doing a single illustration really allowed me to hunker down and focus on the details and all the intricacies a drawing can have. So as you might be seeing on screen, I did the bouncing ball first. No worries. I did it first, and after I was just kind of experimenting, I wanted to do like a cute illustration of like my mascot, like the icon that I have on this channel and on my Instagram, on basically all my social media. I have like this creature, kind of like a tailless cat or a hamster creature that I randomly drew around 3 a.m. one day. So I wanted to make a mini animation of that creature just living on this mysterious land, coming back home from work, and basically a cute little animation of this mascot of mine. And I enjoyed it. It was fun, and I think it'll be awesome if I can really develop my animation skills and make like these kind of illustrations that you see on lo-fi YouTube channels, where like a character kind of moves on a loop animation, and it's really cool. But I also did not complete this piece, unfortunately. The reason why was, I think, largely due to how unsatisfied I was with the colors. I purposely left like different compositions and color schemes in the recording because I kind of want you guys to see that I struggled a lot, and I still kind of struggle a lot with, like, I have to go through more than one iteration of the color composition or color scheme of a piece. So that was, I think, the composition and the color was the main problems of this piece, and I also wasn't really satisfied with the coloring style. So you can start to tell that the fundamentals weren't solid enough for me to continue. So the fundamentals problem played a big part of my progress, determining my progress. Even though I didn't finish, I actually wanted to kind of post a mini reel to kind of show off like the animation, because I thought it was really fun, but you can kind of see it here while maybe I'll just pop a really short animation of it on screen so my hard work doesn't go completely to waste. Somebody sees it. There are, I think, a couple drawings that I did not record enough or accidentally deleted or something that I couldn't really put in the video, but there are definitely more failed pieces than the ones I'm showing on screen. I think the last piece, I think there's two more incomplete pieces I wanted to show you guys were also illustrations. And to just put it in short terms and to put it shortly, I wasn't solid enough on my fundamentals or experienced enough. So like this blue looking piece, I was trying to experiment with like a different art style, kind of a little different art style. I saw this really cool piece by Mako, Mako, or by his or her Instagram pen name, Drive Away My Troubled Heart. I'm not really sure. I was really inspired by his style or her style, and so that's basically what I was doing in this piece, like working on colors but trying a different kind of line art and style. Like I had like a really inspiring, motivating idea behind this piece, but the execution went wrong because of a very fundamental problem. And I only found out after working hours and hours on the piece, and it was perspective. It's kind of odd. It might be odd, but I didn't realize that perspective can be such an important thing in a nature scene. Like I was like designing this scene to be kind of like on a hill, and like the character is like going down the hill into like this mysterious forest with tree shadows casting on the ground. It was probably like a morning, and then she just got out of this dungeon where she defeated all those creatures and something. But I realized the perspective was completely off, and it was another L for me for me to realize so late, because what it did was it made the water look like it was defying gravity, basically, because the slope of the hill, it's not very logical for the water to look like still water on the hill. You know what I mean? The only way that I can make it work is make the water, how do I say, the little creek fall down like little waterfalls, and I didn't want that for the piece. I wanted it to kind of look like a little swamp, a creek / swamp that doesn't have a lot of motion and reflects the sky. And the only way I was able to fix that was basically redo the entire scene, redo the entire line art, and work on constructing the composition all over again. And man, I wasn't going to do that. Yeah, I wasn't going to redo all that line art, and I also wasn't satisfied with the art style. So in this piece, the perspective was bad, and the very last piece, I'll say it just to the point, the composition was bad. And I knew that because the way the piece was formatted, like the way it's, how do you say the vertical format? The way it's like vertical and not landscape format, for example, and the way that you probably can't really see it here because But originally I also roughed out the color scheme, and the piece meant to feel peaceful and kind of like bittersweet, reminiscent, but the feeling basically came off, the actual feeling that the piece was giving us was like chaos. and it's not peaceful. The last two illustrations that I'm showing in depth are basically viz dev pieces for like a comic or a webtoon I wanted to work on. So the main character is has become a really skilled warrior, and then she's in this kind of 17th century era kind of world, reminiscent kind of like Elden Ring, and in a couple aspects. And then she looks off into the distance and sees this monster. But what's different about this monster was it was actually her guardian when she was young, and then for some reason this guardian became a monster, and then she's having a moment of conflict and sadness about this. So that's kind of like the idea behind the piece. Yeah, sadly the composition did not lend itself to making the feeling that I wanted to get across be successful. And I realized that my shape language, like the shapes I chose to be dominant in the piece, was like very square looking formats and like circular looking formats. And I realized the square and circular shapes were clashing against each other, creating a sort of chaos in the piece. And the main character in the piece had a very static pose, which is pretty uninteresting, and it didn't really give a really good hint towards her character in a sense. It wasn't a really interesting hint, at least, that implied her character. So the shape language composition were the main irks I had with this piece. And again, you can probably kind of get a sense of what's basically wrong with all of my incomplete pieces is because I did not work on my fundamentals enough. And I was taking on pieces that were bigger than I can handle. So what do I need to work on now? How can I stop making these mistakes and stop making so many big failures deteriorate my motivation so much and make me a little depressed? What can I do? Well, thankfully there is such an abundant resource of advice that you can find on YouTube, and I want to especially thank Tyler Edlin. If you've been on a self-learning art journey, you have probably heard of this guy, but he's a professional environment artist, I think, environment concept artist, or that's his specialization. And he gave this advice about how to make progress in an efficient manner, and that is to take on small projects, medium projects, and large projects on various paces. And what I mean by that is, for example, for a small project, you basically take maybe one or two fundamentals that you want to practice and complete that in a day. And so, for example, maybe I want to work on anatomy and perspective. So what I would do for that day is draw a pose in perspective maybe 3-point perspective, for example, and try to draw out the muscles in detail from memory, for example, and I would be able to complete it in a day. The result would not look very fancy, but at least I made progress on these two fundamentals by breaking it down into a small project. And so that's a small project. And then for a week, you can spend an entire week taking on a medium-sized project. So maybe you can do in an illustration with elements and themes that you are super comfortable with, and just kind of like enjoy yourself through it. And then for the big project, maybe these are like the portfolio pieces, and with that you can take your time to really accumulate day by day those different fundamentals: composition, perspective, anatomy, color. Did I say composition? I don't remember. All that, and slowly work out that month's big project. So that's basically, I'm very grateful that I came across his video. I will link it down below too if you guys want to watch it. I think it's really helpful and kind of compartmentalizes a plan for your art journey, if that makes sense, in an understandable way and manageable way. So the last in-depth recording, it kind of shows me kind of practicing just the small stuff, the day-to-day projects. So I'm just basically studying the anatomy of the face and different expressions on the face. All in all, I can say that I have a better understanding of how to improve. I'm still a little bit dreading the future, but I've become more comfortable with making failures, and by following what Tyler Edlin talked about, like taking on smaller projects, I will be able to fail faster and not be so depressed about this big project that I worked on for hours and hours, and I didn't do anything else, and ultimately that project failed. And I think I wouldn't be as discouraged anymore if I just take smaller bites daily on my art journey. So now I'm doing just that, taking smaller, medium-sized, and bigger projects on different paces. Unfortunately, that indicates that I won't be able to really post weekly on my Instagram, for example. I can't really grow my audience there because right now I really am really viewing Instagram, for example, like my portfolio website, and I actually don't want it any other way, because I really like making my feed aesthetic and I don't really like to, I think it's more appealing for the followers to see quality over quantity, so I wanted to keep it that way. But I think on YouTube, I hope to really show the more smaller projects that you guys can work along with as I record them in these long form videos and make like these voiceovers. So let me know in the comments if you guys would like that, or if there's any other things that you guys want to see from me. Thank you to every subscriber that's still here. I know I probably disappointed a lot of people with not continuing with my Webtoon, but I just want to let you guys know that I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to give up on this YouTube art channel as well, and I hope to produce more frequent and consistent content in the near future. Last of all, the very last thing is, I don't want this video to come out as, I don't want this video to come off as a very discouraging and like, yeah, you're gonna feel a lot, guys, just work hard kind of video. But even though I failed a lot, I'm grateful for those failures, first of all, because it allowed me to pinpoint my weaknesses better and helped me really understand, like down to my bones kind of thing, understand fully like, hey, fundamentals are so important if you want to achieve a certain level. And I did not, even though I made a lot of failed or incomplete pieces this year, I actually can see that I got improvement. And that's what I want to leave off with you guys today, that last year I did like my art progress in 1 year video, and this purple room kind of was the last piece I posted from that 1 year art progress. Like, here is where I am after 1 year. After about half a year, I did like a blue colored room and putting these two pieces side by side, I can see that my composition has gotten better, my coloring has gotten better, my shape language has also gotten better. So it's not ultimate defeat for me. There's a little W in the massive amount of L's. So I think seeing my progress, at least between these two pieces, gives me hope. And I hope it kind of encourages you guys that you'll have successes, you'll have failures, and I think we just have to, as artists, need to be familiar or used to getting failures. But nonetheless, it doesn't discourage us from completely giving up, because even if we're making a lot of failures, we still have the potential to be better than before. So that's what I want to leave off for you guys today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. I would love to hear from you guys, any of your thoughts and where you guys are in your art journey. I hope I can become a source of motivation for you guys and encourage people to not give up on their dreams, even though it gets hard. But even though it gets hard, at least you're doing what you love to do. And there are not only hard stuff that you will go through to get to your dreams, but there are, when you succeed in something, and when you see progress, it's a satisfying part of that journey. So thank you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.